Matisyahu,
Morning, Rabbi.
nice to meet you. Shalom Aleichem. Can you see me okay?
Yeah, I can see you. It's very nice to meet you as well.
Yeah, the pleasure is more mine than yours, trust me. I just want to make sure you have a good background because your crew isn't going to want to watch if the background's terrible or I look blurry. You know what I mean?
I'm pretty much going to just use the audio, so you don't have to worry about the video too much.
Oh, okay. Well, my crew cares.
Okay, gotcha.
So from your end, I know you're capturing the video for us, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Does it look decent from your side? Or I look like shadowy or okay? Because you look crystal clear.
You look good, except for when you're moving.
Okay. Well, I'll try not to move too much.
Yeah, just it's blurry when you're moving.
Got it. Would it be better for you if I put on earphones?
Yes.
I think the audio would be better.
Yeah. Does it have a mic on it?
Yeah, I mean, it's whatever comes with our iPhones. You know what I mean?
It's much better than just speaking into the computer.
Okay, no problem.
Nice.
No problem. Okay, so tell me, how's that?
Very good.
Oh, wow. It got loud, GQ. That's nice. It's nice to meet you. So you see, I'm a real person. I'm not just a figment of the internet. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the coolest thing about it is that people become real.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, listen, you're a big podcaster now. So does a person say Shechianu on a first podcast? Like, how does that work?
I didn't ask.
Well, you can maybe say it without Shema Malchus, without the Shem Hashem. But anyway, I'm all completely yours. You got me. I'm interested. Let's rock and roll. I'm like, my phone is on quiet. I'm even turning this thing off,
Good.
which is like only my wife gets that kind of treatment. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, superstar. So look, you got my undivided attention. Do your thing. I'm with you. I'm locked in. Let's roll.
Amazing. So basic background is that about a year and a half ago, my wife and I came to Pittsburgh, where she's from Kollel and Mayanot. And so when I was in LA and I was in college, I was all geared up to go have this really crazy career in basketball. I was coaching these NBA players, working with guys, helping them become pros and go to college, and just it wasn't working for me. It was very spiritually lacking. And so I started in college learning with Chabad and becoming closer, and always wanted to have a relationship with God, just didn't know where to go. And so fast forward, leaving Mayanot, taking a couple year break from hustling and bustling and just really only spirituality, and landing on my feet and being like, okay, well, now I have a wife and a child, and can you try speaking one time?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, now. Okay, cool.
I'm with you.
It looked like you spoke and I didn't hear you, so I just wanted to make sure.
Oh, no.
So as I took steps forward, people, including my friends, but other people that left Mayanot, other guys that are in that 20-something to young 30 range, just started asking me a lot of questions, like, how are you getting not just a job, like, who wants a job, but at least one you like, and how are you managing? Things are getting busier now. You're starting this podcast now, like, what's up with you? And on so many levels, I can help, but the reason that I started this is because I kept sending different people. I've read over 50 books this year. And I'm proud, but also not at the same time, because what I'm not proud of is that guys like you and me are coming up now, and we're going to make the new books that guys can read instead of having to go to the non-Jews. And
That's right.
So that has been my biggest challenge. And then I just woke up one morning and said, you know what, screw all these podcasts. I'm making one. And
Nice.
So that everybody can have their answers from God-fearing people that are, it's kosher. It's not going to mess your mind up, because so many people are like, they get better in their business and then their relationship starts sucking. Or like they get more into their marriage and they can't make any more money. And
Sure.
it's just not how God meant it, I don't think. At least what I was taught so far.
I'm with you so far, Matisyahu, 100%.
So where we're at now is, I want to go through your story. So when you were our age, well, probably younger than me at this point. I'm 27, but maybe like in your late teens, early 20s, who were you? What were you thinking was going to be your life? And then as that started happening, maybe what started changing, what started opening your eyes, so that, because a lot of times if we just ask questions, maybe we'll get an answer. But I find so much when we learn a guy like your story that all those
Sure.
messages and answers are going to come out as well. So
I'm with you. Okay, so we're on. Let's roll. Okay,
okay.
so where would you want me to start? I'll just start a little bit about my background. So I'm 39 years old. I turned 39 a little bit earlier this summer. I grew up in Boca Raton, Florida, from South Florida. My mother is Moroccan and from Spain. That's my mother's side. My father's side is Ashkenazi, several generations in the U.S. from Belarus. And I grew up a nice sort of conservative Jew in Boca Raton, Florida. Every man in my family is a medical doctor. I think there was a few uncles a generation or two back that were dentists, which is also medical. So I basically grew up in a world and a mindset that the path to success in life was you have to go to school, get great grades, and you're going to become sort of a doctor or lawyer. That is the path for a nice Jewish boy like me, and that will get me income and a nice wife and, I don't know, 2 kids and maybe a nice dog, and that'll be kind of life. That's a mentality I grew up in. Keep your nose clean, be a good boy, get great grades, go to a top university, a top law school, everything's going to be great. So that's sort of how I came up. And so that's how I assumed my life was going to go. I ended up going to Emory University in Atlanta. So I checked that box, a top 15, 20 university. I enrolled in college in 1995. I went on the pre-med track, the pre-law track. And because Emory is a lawyer and doctor factory, so I did what I was supposed to do. And by the end of college, I was accepted to medical school and law school, and I did everything I was supposed to do, and I ended up going towards law school. What changed for me, and you're welcome to stop me at any point, was around the age of 17 and a half, 18 was the first time in my life I had ever pretty much met people who were Shomer Torah mitzvahs, people who kept the Torah. I always had known intellectually that such people exist. I had been aware of it, but the first time I ever kept the Shabbos was, for example, my senior year in high school. And immediately that opened up so much in my mind. I said, wow, there's so much more to Judaism than I had ever known. So I went off to college with a massive thirst to explore that piece of me. And that was developing massively along with my grades and GPA and career achievements and everything else, which led me to my life into a different direction as a whole, outside of the classic nice Jewish doctor or lawyer role.
So at what point did you start keeping Shabbos?
Yeah, so the first time I kept Shabbos, like I said, was my senior year in high school. By the time I went to college in Atlanta, I was blessed because, I knew going to the university that it was about 35% Jewish, and there was a Hillel. So I could go to a Friday night service or have a Passover Seder and things like that. What I didn't know when I went to Atlanta is that there was a very large Torah observant community only 2 miles away. The hub of the main Torah observant community is only 2 miles from the university. So God was very kind to me by landing me in a place where I was able to walk or drive or anything else very quickly to sort of explore that. So Shabbos, first time I was exposed to Shabbat, I was like full Shabbat, I was, let's say, 18, 17 and a half, 18. But I knew I wanted to do it. But the problem, and I use the word problem in quotes, which if it's only an audio, you're going to have, your audience might not know, but I'm using it in quotes. The problem I had is that when like many people, when I started learning Torah, I didn't think there was like 613 mitzvahs. I felt like there was 613 problems. Like, how in the world am I going to incorporate all this into my life? But one thing that I was always excellent at, Matisyahu, was breaking down my goals into smaller, manageable parts. I knew I wanted to ultimately keep Shabbat all the way A to Z, like an Orthodox rabbi would, and the nice families I was meeting, like that. But I knew I couldn't jump that far that fast. So I started to ask the rabbis and people I met, can you give me some of the details and the laws of Shabbat so I could begin to figure out which pieces I could integrate? The first law of Shabbos that I took upon myself was I was going to unscrew the light bulb in my refrigerator. That was the very first thing I wanted to do. Because it was easy, because I'm a big college football fan from growing up. in South Florida. I was a Miami Hurricanes fan. And Saturday, in September, when school starts, like that's college football season. So how do you do Shabbat and not? So one of the first things I did in order to feel Shabbat-ish, if that's such a word, was I would unscrew the bulb in my fridge. And that way, even if I would open my refrigerator 100 times on Shabbat to get food and drinks, and I was watching football games, whatever, on TV, at least I knew that there was 100 times that I was observing Shabbat and I didn't break Shabbat, right? So that's how it sort of started. And when I got good at that halacha, then I kept going, that law, and then I asked for others and more and more. By the time I was 20, about to turn 21, at that point I was Shomer Shabbat full time. So keeping Shabbat, like a lot of things in life, it's not an all or nothing kind of event. The evolution of it was something sort of gradual. And that ability to set a target that I have for myself and then to sort of reverse engineer from that to where I am and to break it into manageable chunks and goals is something that I've used over time, whether it was to keep Shabbat, to go from 0 of the laws being kept to, God's help, all of them, to whether it's to writing a book or building a career or anything else. It's the same process, just sort of repeated again and again.
Nice. Yeah, I relate to that a lot as well. The title of the show is called The Long Short Way for a reason, because if we want to take the shortcut, it's not going to last.
Right. Tell me about it.
So speaking of setting some targets, that's a very relevant thing to everybody thinking of creating a plan. What were some of your goals and targets when you were just graduating law school?
So what happened was this. Basically, I had set a goal for myself while I was in law school that by the time so I did my 4 years of college at Emory, and then I had different choices where I was going to go for law school. I sort of picked between Northwestern in Chicago and Emory Law to just continue on. Emory Law made me a financial offer I couldn't refuse, so that kept me in Atlanta, coupled with the fact that I was close with the community and learning under the kollel with all my extra time. I locked in and I stayed. I had set a goal once I decided I was going to stay in Atlanta that 3 years from now, I graduated law school when I was 24. So from 21 to 24, I set a goal for myself that by the time I come out, I want to have smicha. I want to have my, rabbinic ordination. So that was something I was going to work on. So law school at a top 20 university, it's a full-time job. But I'm like, I never wanted to be average. And I always have more time. I always find time that other people don't have to do whatever else. So I set a goal for myself. I was going to learn for smicha. So I basically became a machine in law school. I would get up at 5, 6 in the morning, go to shul, go to the morning service, learn Torah for an hour or two, then go to law school. And I was always a model of efficiency. I would listen to Torah tapes, audio cassettes. Back then, that's what we were still listening to. It wasn't as digital, but I would listen to those in the car. I still remember showing up at law school, and I'd walk into the big auditorium where the lecture would be, and I had my Torah books. And I would sit and learn Torah until the class would begin. And when it would end, I was always on a mission. So I was end up in law school. I was probably doing law school related to about 6 to 8 hours a day. Probably learning Torah about 10 hours a day. The net result being that at age 24 that week, in let's say April or May, when I had the purple cap and gown of the Emory colors, I got my law degree, I also got my smicha. So what had happened was I was so in love with Judaism that my parents I had told my parents that I think I'd want to leave the law aside and just go all in on the Torah and the rabbi and go be Rabbi Bregman and devote my life and career to that. My parents said, look, we respect what you're doing and we're supportive, but like you came this far, just get that law degree, right? So my parents were right, and I always understood that life doesn't have to be either or, you can be both. So I went in that direction, and I finished both. So my last year in law school, I started looking for rabbinic positions for myself in outside of law positions. So that was sort of what my primary goal was, to get smicha and then sort of become a campus rabbi. And that was the direction I took myself. And thank God it worked. So while it's funny, I remember I received an award my last year in law school called the Robert Boehner Award for Professionalism and Ethics. Basically, I didn't do anything special to get it, except I was wearing a yarmulke and probably a mensch, so the administration nominated me. So I remember when I received it, I was at a major law firm in Atlanta, full of like fancy schmancy top corporate lawyers. And I remember so I get their award, and they clapped, and it was all these lawyers, and I was like, and I didn't know anybody in the room. It was hundreds of people. They're like, so what are you doing next year? I'm like, I'm going to be a campus rabbi. They're like, you can almost hear like the record like coming to a scratching, like coming to a stop, because they were expecting everybody to say which firm I was working for, but I was taking my life in a different direction. But I've always believed that we have so much time in the day, and it's a question of becoming efficient and maximizing it so we can produce as much as possible. We all have the same amount of time. Me, you, the person down the block. The question is, what are we going to do with it?
Totally. And hopefully we'll get into some of your secrets of how to squeeze out some of that.
If I have any secrets, you can have them all today. Just ask and I'll answer.
I love it. So once you became the campus rabbi, what was some of those next steps, some of those encounters with students that inspired you to start looking into maybe stepping up a little higher and becoming somewhat of an influencer in this world?
Yeah. So I'm a big believer, Matisyahu, that a person has to know themselves super well and what are their core basic strengths. Let's say from 1 to 10, 1 being you stink at something and 10 you're amazing. You have to know yourself really well. There's plenty of areas in life that I'm not especially good. For example, drawing and art. Okay, I could show you a picture of me drawing a human being, a person, like at age 39, and one from age 6, if my mom still has it, and you'd be like, there's like no evolution in my artwork. You know what I mean? Like, that's not what I meant to do. The main core skill set I understood from, let's say, the second half of high school and on, was I knew how to communicate, I knew how to persuade, I know how to listen to people. I'm emotionally sensitive and intuitive. I know how to sell. I know how to present. And I know how to systematize and analyze and to communicate. Those were some of my key core skill sets. And I was often from the middle of high school, let's say junior year and on, I saw myself being able to leverage those talents to help bring out my potential and other people's potential. I realized over time when I look back that I pretty much was from age 16, 17 on, a professional developer of human potential. That's what I am. That's what my company, Bregman Success, is about. That's what I do really well. So I got interested in Jewish outreach and sharing Yiddishkeit, Judaism, and our wisdom with other people, because that's what I love to do, help people see their biggest and best version of themselves and stretch and expand, right? So that's why I got interested in that. But when you start doing that, you realize there's other opportunities. It enabled me to become a matchmaker over time, and I've been blessed to, I think, make about 30 or 31 matches so far, directly beyond the hundreds that I've been involved with behind the scenes. It helped me to grow businesses, to help people attain their goals. Today in the world, they call it a coach. Back then, just people sort of wanted, advice and a mentor. So that's sort of what I've always been really great at. And the more you get out there in the world, the more you see opportunities to take your core skill set and adapt it. Once you know what that is, you could push all those chips to the middle of the table and go all in on that. I'm a 5'11" Jewish boy. I probably weigh about 200 pounds. I'm not going to be, on the New York Knicks this year. It's probably not going to happen, right? You're in LA. I'm not going to be on the Clippers. I'm not going to be on the Lakers. It's just not going to be, right? But I do know who I am and what I'm great at, and that's where I think everybody has to push all things in. So it happened over time. So, I would set goals to have this many number of students, come for Shabbat and this many learning Torah and everything else. But I'm always a goal setter. That makes me feel good. I feel terrific when I have lists and targets that I'm able to hit. That's when you feel alive. Hashem created us for that purpose. If we're still alive, it means by definition that there's something that Hashem wants of us to do, to make, to accomplish for ourselves, our family, other people. That's why we're here. And it's a phenomenal feeling to attain that. And the lack thereof, I think, leaves a person feeling kind of empty. So I'm always looking for the next thing, the biggest, the next thing, bigger, 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 not because I'm a malcontent, but only because it's that striving for the next level, whether it's in a relationship with your wife or in your health or how patient you could be with people that drive you nuts or whatever else. To me, we say in Yiddish, das heißt gelebt. That's called living. That feeling is living, and it's intoxicating.
So let's get into it now. We've heard your story now, and this is the time for that you love more than anything. So something that I've learned a lot from you is what we can learn from successful people.
Right.
Successful people, if you from what I learned from you so far, is that looking at all of them, you're not going to find a million different patterns. There's a foundation that's in common. I'd love to share with the audience what that foundation is and what we can learn from successful people.
Awesome. Well, so you're asking the $1 million question, which would take 1,000,000 hours to go into everything. But
as everything.
Yeah, as everything. They say rabbis have a tendency, instead of make a long story short, we make short stories long. Like that's part of the profession, But
or it's like your video on Facebook. I'm going to try to keep it under a minute, and then later you say, "Sorry."
All right.
What rabbis do.
It's 2 minutes. It's the best I could do.
Yeah.
Have a good day. It is what it is. But if you're adding value, most people don't complain.
Exactly.
Here's what I would tell you. I have a book that I'm working on that's going to, God willing, come out in the first draft in the weeks ahead, called Force of Nurture. Okay? Many people have said to me over time, and everybody speaks differently, but the basic thing is like, dude, you're like a force of nature, yo. Like you're like a hurricane of activity and energy and just production. So what I tell them, and this is where the title came from, I said to them, you think I'm a force of nature, but I'm a force of nurture. What I mean by that is that I became, however you think I am today, I became that way. I made myself this way. The original version of me was much less confident, much more shy, didn't have so much goal acquisition kind of worked out. Whatever people like about me, I became that way. So if people see me blowing through my goals, Baruch Hashem, with God's help, it's because if I'm a force of nature, I look like a Category 5 storm, right? It's only because I became that way by nurture. So I think the first thing people need to understand, Matisyo, if they want to become successful and attain their goals and things, is understand, and you could see this from other people, you see somebody that seems great, he or she was not born that way. Even if they have certain natural proclivities and tendencies and gifts and whatever, he or she became that way by how they think and the actions they make. The mindset we have, the beliefs we have, and the actions we take upon them are really what separates me from you, from him, from her, and 7.3 billion other people. So that's the first thing. Everything is learnable, right? You see someone in the world who's producing this result or that result, it's not shocking or some kind of miracle. They're thinking a certain way. The bigger my thinking has expanded, the bigger the actions I would take behind them. How I relate to fear, how I relate to rejection, how I set goals, what is realistic, how I push myself past what feels comfortable. All of those things start in my mind. And the more I tweak and adjust my mind and thinking, the more my actions have the ability to follow. So to me, I would say Rashis Kyle, the beginning of everything is understanding if you look like a force in nature, you have a role model online or a podcaster, somebody from YouTube, whatever else, he or she became that way. And it started with how they think and the actions they take. And I'll just give you this snippet, and then you could throw me back another question if you like. If you see the results that somebody's produced in this world, a lot of people go, wow, look what he did, look what she did. Okay? So that's what the average person does. Then people that are a little bit more lofty will look back and say, well, what actions did they take that produced that result? Maybe I can, emulate them. And that's even better. But you know what I would tell you? Even start before that. What mindset do they have? How they think about themselves, life, and going after things that allow them to take that action. Because all results really start with how you think and your mindset, right? It starts with your mindset. Let's say, when I wrote the book, Short and Sweet on the Parsha, which I think was like the #1 best-selling book on the Parsha in the world last year and sold out in the UK and in South Africa and in Israel and the US and Canada and in Eretz Yisrael. Okay, so it's like, hey, cool, look at this great book with a million sources. Wow, okay, that's nice. Okay, but then a person can say, well, look, some people say, well, what actions did he take to go through all of Shas and Medrash and 100 Mefarshim and commentaries to produce that? But you should really ask even before that, what was the guy thinking to undertake that? What attitude did he have that enabled him to push through and put through those thousands of hours to create a Torah masterpiece? You always got to start with the thought process. So when you look at role models and winners, don't pay so much attention to the final result. You want to reverse engineer it. Start with how they think, because if you can emulate their thinking, not only you could produce their results, but you could produce results in your own sphere as well.
So how do successful people think?
Well, I would say by and large, I would say that it depends on what area they're in, but most people who achieve very highly are willing to become obsessed with what they want to do, for starters. Okay. Many people think obsession is like a negative trait. I don't believe it is. To me, it becomes meaning being fixated on accomplishing a set goal or target and hitting it pretty much no matter what, as long as what you're doing is ethical and moral. I think becoming obsessed is the great thing. Okay. Nobody would have been able to ever send a rocket ship to the moon if they weren't completely locked in and obsessed with this becoming a reality. You would not be able to launch a podcast and find professional athletes and me and whoever else you're going to find. You weren't completely locked in and fully devoted and committed. So I think commitment is a big part of it. Okay, number one. I think another thing that successful people have in common is they have a willingness to develop tough, sort of thick skin and tough skin to become resilient, to keep pushing past resistance. Most people grossly underestimate how difficult it is to accomplish anything, right? Just look at getting me on this podcast. You reach out to me, I wrote you back, we corresponded, then I vanished for 2 weeks. It's not personal. I get hundreds of communications of me from the public a day, plus I was traveling around the country. I'm still interested. So a person can be like, you know what, this guy's not interested, leave him alone. It's not for me, it's not meant to be. Maybe he's saying no to me after saying yeah. But a person has to persist. You got to persist. You got to push all the way through. That persistence all the way through. You also, if you have to be malleable and moldable along the way. If I want something, I believe it's going to happen. If I'm committed, it's going to happen with God's help. Now, it might be that person A isn't going to help me. Person B isn't going to give me the resources they promised. Person C, who said they were going to fund it, they flake out. But if you're committed, you basically have a mindset that I'm going to go out and get the resources. And if you don't have it, or you don't have it, and you're not going to give it to me, I'll find it from somebody else. See, and this really gets to the next element. And there's a lot of elements. And I'm going to have to get you a complimentary copy of Force and Nurture, because we'll lay out a lot for you, Matizio. But another thing is, how do you relate to fear and it's connected to rejection? A lot of people experience the emotion of fear or apprehension or as rejection, a concern for it, as sort of like a red light in their life, like a flashing red light or stop sign, like, uh-oh, you're at the edge, don't go any further, you're in danger. I interpret fear and apprehension is almost like a light to press forward and change forward. When I'm nervous about something, whether picking up the phone or submitting a business proposal to someone who may not want to hear it, when I'm having that feeling, that to me is a green light that this is something I have to go do. Because the only way to become bigger and more and accomplish more is you have to stretch yourself. You have to stretch past your comfort zones and your comfort points. And one of the ways of doing that is reinterpreting how you experience fear and a concern of rejection.
So to get one more fear out of the way, because something that I've noticed that helps a lot of times when getting somebody from point A to point B is just, let's go through all the fake realities you can make up right now. You have a family, you have 2 kids that are 1 and 2 years old, and you think you can't go start a business or do something that you want to do. So you're just going to stay in the track that the company wants you to go down. So is it true that if you have 2 young kids and a family that you can't go start a business?
No, you could a person can start a business at any age and any point in time. First of all, back to that point I was saying about being aware of who you are and your strengths. A person has to know themselves. Like, there's a narrative in the world today that it's like cool to start a business or cool to be an entrepreneur and it's cool to have your own thing. Not everybody can hack it, Matisyo. And your audience has to know this. Not everybody can hack it. It doesn't mean they don't have the yichaylis, the potential to do it, but you have to know, A, do I have the potential? And B, am I going to actually do it? You have to know yourself what you're actually going to do. Some people are very risk averse and some people are very risk tolerant. And it impacts everything that they do in life, whether in dating. A person might say, you know what, I'm not accepting a date to go out with somebody that was suggested to me until I know everything about him and everything about her and they're thoroughly vetted to my satisfaction, right? Other people are like, what's the worst thing that happens? I meet somebody and they're not for me and I just, try to be polite and I'll go home in 2 hours and it's done, right? So some people are very risk tolerant and risk averse. You have to know if you want to start a business, are you risk averse? Are you scared? Are you going to play scared? What's practical for one person is not practical for another. I mean, it's very nice and cool to say, like, I'm going to go out and get a job. But if you know you don't have the internal fortitude and horsepower that you're going to push yourself out into the marketplace and push past resistance, you probably should not be starting a business. Certainly one, and here's the asterisk I'm hanging over here, certainly one that is going to be the main source of parnasa, of livelihood for yourself and your family. So there's 2 kind of businesses. There's one which is your morning to night kind of hustle thing. And if that's what's reliant upon, you have a kid or 2 kids and you need Pampers and Similac and formula and trips to Target and Desitin and you could see I'm an Abba. I know these things, right? If that's what you're relying upon, you maybe should not be starting a business if you're not massively confident that you could do it, you could pull it off, it has practicality. What if 90% of things go wrong from your projections? Can you still make it and hack it? You have to know. Then there's a side business that a person does from 8 p.m. to 11 at night or from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. But some people, and I just want to be clear, cannot, it's not that they cannot, they should not start a business because they don't have risk tolerance and it's stressful to them. The upside of owning your own business and working for yourself is massive, but some people don't have the stomach for it. In a very simple terms, some people would rather be paid $12 an hour by somebody else and it's pretty reliable and the ceiling is known, the floor is known, but I'll take my 12 an hour and my stomach won't be churning versus I could go make 100 an hour, but I will eat what I kill, like a classic image of a hunter. And if I don't get out in the marketplace and hunt some business down, I will go hungry. I have that risk tolerance. I am not risk averse. I am very, very risk tolerant, mostly because things that people perceive to be risky are not risky to me because I know who I am. And I feel like I have Hashem on my side and I know what I'm able to do. So I would rather have the chance, this is the way I am, to make hundreds and hundreds of dollars an hour, thousands of dollars in a day, and I will gamble, so to speak, on my skill set, my talents, my hustle and drive. I would rather do that than come home with $120 at the end of the day and no risk because I know who I am. But not everybody's meant to do that, especially if they're trying to do a full-time job that's going to support everything. So a full-time business. So I think you really have to know which category you want to go in. The fact you have kids, that shouldn't be a reason not to go get it. The fact you're married should not be a reason. That should be more of a reason to try to build something that'll be able to sustain you. A lot of people joke that job stands for just over broke. And it's a way to sort of tread water. But a person could also have a job which is stable from 9 to 5 or 8 to 6, but you have so many hours in the day to basically go out there and collect more money from the marketplace.
So what can someone do who's not so risk adverse, instead of just saying that I have a marketing job or I have a sales job, whatever it might be. How can someone plan out the fact that they're going to work for someone else, but they want to raise the ceiling on what they can earn?
Yeah, well, there's two ways you could raise the ceiling. First of all, you could do it perhaps in the workplace. You could approach the man or woman or supervisor, whoever you have, and tell them, listen, number one, I'm willing to take on more here. What else can I take on? And well, multiple. So sometimes in your own place, you could take on more work, more responsibility, produce more per hour, and actually collect more income and revenue that way. That's one possibility. Another model that people could do within their job, within the actual job, you understand, without going out and making some side business, you could actually go to the person you work for and tell them this. What is one of the biggest problems or needs that you're having over here in your company and the business that's not getting done, not getting resolved? Can I resolve it for you, perhaps even for free? If I could go create that result you want for free, would you be willing to pay me for it? As a percentage, revenue, so on and so forth. Many times, people, if you engage in a risk reversal with someone, they'll be willing to give you stuff to do. I can imagine a scenario, somebody could call me today and say, Rabbi Bregman, will you hire me? The answer could be no. Then a person says to me, okay, listen, I'll tell you what if I did X for you or Y for you or Z for you, and I was able to get you more business, more clients, more this, more that, whatever it is, would you be willing to give me a third of it? I'm taking on the risk. You have no risk. It's 100-0 in terms of risk, right? It's all on me. Would you pay me for it? The answer is yes. Many employers have that going on within their job, within their scenario, that they do that with you if you'd ask them, so you could do that there also. The main thing I would say is that a person needs to develop an opportunistic set of eyes to see all the opportunities out there where they can collect extra revenue. Person has to look at it in terms of increments. The person who's making $1,500 a week should not be trying probably to figure out how to get to $4,500 a week as the next increment. Figure out, how can I go from $1,500 to $2,000 a week? And so $2,000 a week, that's an extra $500. And if I'm only working Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, that $500, that's $100 a day, right? And if I'm busy with work 10 hours a day, so that's what? So it's basically, I'm just breaking it down for, a few bucks an hour. What can I do in the world to collect an extra few bucks an hour? What can I do? If you break it down sort of to a granular level, it's not so overwhelming at all. It's not so really overwhelming at all, but you can go do it. And I have a video on YouTube about how do you go out into the world and get what you want. You go out into the world and you go into what I call exchange with people. You got to go into a framework of exchange. So you have to know yourself. What problems can you solve for other people? What ways can you make somebody's life easier? What solutions are you able to provide for people to problems they're already having? And then so when you know that, I know a lot of problems that I can resolve for people, Matisyahu. Business problems, marketing problems, social problems, confidence problems, selling problems, dating problems. A lot of problems I know how. I'm an attorney. I how to solve business problems. I can solve a lot of problems for people, okay? So when you know what problems you could solve for a person, be they technical, legal, emotional, financial, health, whatever it is, then it's just a matter of going into exchange with the people around you and giving them an opportunity and inviting them to do business with you at a price point that makes sense, on the exchange. So that is that's some of the quality questions that a person needs to ask themselves that want to start a business. It's like, I would say this: what problems can I solve for other people that are meaningful, for which they will exchange for me cash? That's the beginning of it, right? It could be cleaning homes. It could be fixing computers. It could be managing somebody's Twitter account. I don't know what a person knows how to do, but you have to figure out, what problems can I solve? Maybe you can only solve one thing for people, maybe 55, but you have to know what those problems are. Got to get it super clear, and then basically invite people to go into an exchange relationship with you where you're each creating value for each other. It's as simple as that. You can go in your own current job position often and collect more revenue, or do it in the marketplace. I mean, heck, a person could go on Facebook, if you have friends on Facebook, and just basically in theory, just write this post. I am able, maybe I'll phrase it like this. I'm doing this in real time. Are any of you having such and such problem? Do you or anyone you know have, and then fill in the blank problem, right? Question mark. If so, I can fix it for you or them. Period. Message me. It's not that hard. It's not that complicated. We all have problems and needs. I can think of 50 that I have going on today, and I'm willing to go into exchange with people, to get them resolved. So that's how I think you should tackle it.
So it sounds like some people who might like social media, as an example, you mentioned managing somebody's Twitter. Instead of thinking I need to go start this whole huge business and I need to feed my family, maybe find one store down the street from you that'll give you a few $100 a month to just do a few posts for them a week.
Yes, exactly. A lot of people, look, at what point, we could ask this, is like, at what point has a person started a business? Like, let's ask that question.
Yeah.
I would say, you've started a business at the point at which someone is now exchanging for you cash or goods of value for your service. That's it. The moment you go from an amateur or a person with a hobby to being a professional is when somebody pays you, in my view, when somebody's paying you. The Summer Olympics, I think, are starting right now. What's the difference between an amateur and a pro? The answer is somebody's being paid, to do boxing or javelin or cross country or whatever else, and somebody's just doing it for free, right? So it's not the biggest deal in the world. When I say I'm a professional developer of human potential, that's who I am. I'm a pro, literally. I don't mean a pro because I'm not even referring now to my quality. I'm just saying people pay me money to basically help them develop their potential, their business, their sales department, their social confidence, how to date better, how to be more socially fluid. At the moment people pay you, you're a professional. So it doesn't have to be so overwhelming. People get so bogged down in thinking, oh, I'm going to start a business. I need a business account right now. I need a website right now. I need social media pages linking to this on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Pinterest, Snapchat, and a lot of other different platforms. And I need business cards and I need everything. I would say time and place for each one of these things. But how about you start with one person, one business, or one company willing to exchange money for the good or service you offer. Start with that. There's always time to upgrade. But it really comes back to knowing yourself very well and being able to put it out there. But again, if you're not willing to put it out there and you're not willing to face rejection, then it's not worth doing. You cannot go out to the marketplace and collect money for yourself or your family if you're not willing to be told no. Growing up, I didn't like it. Nowadays,
you mean someone's going to tell me no?
Yeah, I know it's a shock, Matthew, but yeah, somebody's going to say no to you. A lot of people are not confident because they live in a mindset that they expect everybody to like them. And I say this to people that I work with one-on-one who are trying to build their confidence. Yeah, cool. Look, life is a lot better if people like you. Who wants to be disliked? That's weird. I would be happier if somebody listened to this podcast and says, that Rabbi Bregman guy, he made some good points, seems like a good dude, okay? I got value from that. Cool. But if somebody says, that guy is whack, everything he said made no sense, I'm still going to be okay. But of course, life is better if people understand you. But there's no person who is for everybody. There's no person who is for everybody. The best boxer of all time threw a lot of punches that missed, right? The greatest hitters in baseball of all time got out 65% of the time and only got a hit 35% of the time, right? The greatest quarterbacks, whatever analogy you want, that's how it rolls in life. So you have to understand that you have to develop thick skin and realize that there's no way to start anything or do anything and be universally liked. So you have to go out there and become risk tolerant and understand that it's just a matter of time. If you really are bringing value, look, if you're not bringing real value, nothing's going to work, Matizio, right? But if you're bringing real value to the marketplace, it's just a matter of time till people say yes to your product or service or offering and go into an exchange with you. If you stink, it's not going to work, right? If you stink, it's not going to work. But yeah, people go into exchange with you, but you have to develop some thick skin. I've joked with my wife before that I've told her that if I was a boxer, I would have what they call a great chin. I could take a real pounding and a real, in Yiddish we'd say a real zetz. I could take a good zetz and I can keep going. If my skin is very thick, I'm sort of like made out of like oven mitts. You know what I'm trying to say? I could take a lot of pressure and a lot of heat and just keep moving forward. So I'm built that way a little bit by nature, and I also built onto that with calluses from hard work on myself that I can actually thrust forward into the marketplace and build stuff. But you have to know, like, if you post on Facebook, not everybody's going to like it. I've looked at my YouTube channel stats, youtube.com/Rabbi Bregman. I looked at the back end data from the Google Analytics. Let's say for each 39 likes a video gets, I get 1 dislike. At first I was like, what do you not like about this video? I said what the Chavetz Chaim said perfectly. Like, what do you not like? So, but it's just life. You have to be willing to handle rejection. Understand it's not personal. There's just negative people out there. When Mashiach is revealed, the Messiah, and there'll be a video on it, I'm sure some people will give it a thumbs down. Like it's just life. So you have to understand the nature of the game if you want to play it.
So you gave me 40 minutes and we're at 46. This is really amazing stuff. And if you have more time.
If you think I'm only in this call really to do one thing, and that's to just drop MS truth bombs left and right and hopefully be of value to you and your audience. So if you want to fire another question or two, I'm okay. I'm just literally just trying to pour as much truth into this camera as I can.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So you really hit on some really big points, even without having to be asked for it. You hit on what we need to be mindful of when we're building our life. Is it possible to start a business? What are the successful people behaving like, and what do they think like? And this is something I think you like. You don't like baloney.
No.
You don't like baloney.
No, I don't like baloney at all. I'm a straight talker.
So what's the difference between meaning it and talking about it?
When you say meaning and talking about it, you mean like just good ideas in general, or life, or truth? What do you mean exactly? Because I want to answer your question specifically.
When I think of a couple of my friends that just literally, I feel like they're right here when I'm doing this and trying to think, how can I help them? How can I give to them? And I hear what I would call stories, because a lot of what you're talking about is stuff that when I heard you say, I've gone and done a lot of these things. So I decided after a year of working at a sports tech startup here, I'm not working for someone is going to be not the easiest thing for me.
Right.
Because I was having conflicts with the CEO, and not in a bad way, negative or anything. It's just, I wanted to grow and he wanted to do his thing, his company, not my place to go further than propose something and be rejected.
Totally. Yeah.
But I said, well, can I make as much money on my own right now, like the next month, as I am right now? And so we were doing a lot of websites and different stuff in addition to the software we had. And I said, you know what, let me go see if I could sell some websites. I know this stuff now. I go up and down the street, and within a day I made $3,000 on my own.
Baruch Hashem, amazing. Good right? For you. Yeah.
Literally walking into these stores and saying, I'm starting a company. This is what I'm doing. No proof, no nothing, no portfolio. And people were just open. I hit like 4 out of 5. And for sure, I could have been told to know a bunch more, and that might have been lucky. But some people don't do it, and they won't do that. And it's and they tell me you look at you. No, I'm like, I'm really nothing special. And I've told some friends, you're nicer than me. People like you more than me. I've told other friends, you're better looking than me. Like, you're smarter than me. I'm not that smart. Like, I'm creative, maybe, but I'll go do that. And so what I mean is that God teaches that when you have a thought, it's not for vain. So if you think there's that word that right now, we're going to talk to that guy in the most serious way, that has this thought come on his head and say, I want to do that. And then he thinks of all the reasons and goes away. Or maybe he goes and even talks to his wife and says, I really wish I could do this. Or just any combination of that.
Yeah. So I hear you. Look, I spent a big chunk of my life. People think I'm a motivator. I think you do have to motivate people. Motivation to me means reason to take action. Inspiration. So you have to know what words mean. Inspiration to me comes from the word inspire, the way I understand, like to breathe into a person. So yeah, you want to breathe life and reason to take action into a person to help wake them up. But at the end of the day, motivation and inspiration, that's cool. But what matters is what you do. The world responds to what you do. So I myself don't get excited if I have a motivational thought or moment or feeling. What turns me on mentally is when I do something on it. You need to take action, massive titanic action. People like saying, oh, God helps those who help themselves. Yeah, but everybody wants to be on the God helps those part. What about the help themselves part? No, but for real, Matthew, think about it. Yeah, God a lot of
bless
times.
You in all that you do. It's when he introduced the Shabbos to us, the proof that we should keep it is that he will bless you in all you do. And I've seen so many letters from Lubavitcher Rebbe about growing a business, and he underlines 3 times the word do.
Yeah. Yeah, in Yiddish we say mirdaf ton. We have to do. Like that's how you say it in Yiddish. Yeah, we have to do and take action. So look, at the end of the day, some people just will and some people won't. I think the switch in a lot of people's mind is this. They feel like if the right words are coming out of their mouths, like something was done. Or if their ears hear the right words and then they click a thumbs up, like life is great. That's not enough. You have to take action on it. In Judaism, one of the core Torah principles that I teach, it's in all my writings, is about turning inspiration into action. Inspiration into action. I also have another expression. I call it put your feet in the concrete. Meaning, when I was a kid, and they would be working on a sidewalk somewhere and there was wet cement. When the workers weren't there, you could put your finger in it or a handprint in it or whatever, like that. I don't mean that kind of concrete, but it could be. Meaning you have ideas, inspiration and everything, that's great, but nothing has been done yet except you have a feeling. You have to put your feet into something concrete and tangible to channel it into. So look, we live in a world where a lot of people get excited, they get pumped up, they get inspired. Doesn't matter. What matters is what you do. Go try buying groceries for your wife and kids based on the inspiration you feel, okay? It's not going to work. Last time I checked, the supermarkets I've gone to, they ask for cash or credit or debit or ATM. Nobody ever asked me to pay with my inspiration, okay? So that's really the mentality. And at the end of the day, I don't get excited by what people tell me. I get excited by what people do. If a person says, I love you, that's nice. They said it. I take note. I'm interested in what they do. How do they back it up? Many men, I help a lot of men who are single who want to get married, and they make all kinds of promises to women. I'm going to love you. I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to provide for you. I'll always be there for you. I'll show up day in and day out for you. Cool. I mean, first of all, it's better to be, if you're a single woman, to find a guy who at least says these things, because a lot of them won't even say that, right? It's great to have a guy who says the right things. But I would tell a single lady, don't pay such attention to what's coming out of people's mouths. What do they do? What do they do? Because we live in a world of action. We're not a bunch of floating neshamas, a bunch of floating souls, not in this world, maybe in the next world, in Gan Eden and Shemayim in heaven. But down here, we're in bodies. We have to do. We have to accomplish. We have to take all that inspiration, turn it into action. Because without that, you're just sort of floating in the clouds. And I believe that a person has to balance both to be very successful. This is one thing that I've gotten very good at over time. I see a big picture, a vision, an inspiration I have as to how something could be, how it could look, what to do. But then I leave that alone and I come back to core reality and I begin to do the action steps necessary to bring it to fruition. Everything else, it's just a nice feeling. Feelings are overrated. Moods are overrated in life 9 out of 10 when they're not backed by concrete action.
That's awesome, Rabbi.
Yeah, man, that's it, Matisyo. And the way I talk to you and the way about this and my videos, I talk to my kids about that. My 13-year-old just said to me on the phone the other day, he said, Abba, he said, I'm starting to prepare. My son likes to practice on his own to read from the Torah in shul. Even though he doesn't have to do it for his bar mitzvah, he passed it, he likes to do it. And he tells me sometimes he's going to do it. I said to him, are you going to do it? And he said, I train him. He said, Abba, I'm not just going to talk about it. I'm going to be about it. That's what my 13-year-old said to me. Which means I'm going to do it. Because, it's very nice. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. So what? So what? You're excited today? So what? You're inspired? So what? What are you going to do? You want to change the world. You want to make the Jewish world a better place. You want to help your family. You want to help your community. Cool. What are you going to do? Because what you're going to do is what matters. And everything else is just the synapses in your mind firing with excitement and enthusiasm and inspiration. And really, that's why the marketplace will reward a doer who is less talented than a person who's a big talker and dreamer but doesn't take real action.
Is that your phone?
I don't know. Somebody seems to be ringing the door, but I'm not available.
Thanks.
So anyway, man, that's what I got for you, okay?
It's amazing. Thank you for taking so much time. I have one personal question if you would do me such a favor.
Sure. Are you hearing me okay? The audio shifted at my side.
Just for a second, it was okay though.
Okay,
yeah.
Great.
So I was kicking around an idea last night about with what I'm doing with the podcast, there's pretty minimal expenses, but was wondering is it too awkward or phony to maybe throw a little Kickstarter campaign together to get maybe some sponsorship money so that I'm not coming out of pocket to do the work?
Yeah, I don't think anything. I think it's never too early to try a Kickstarter or whatnot. I'll answer your question by giving sort of a general answer that I think will help a lot of people. You never know what's going to work until you try it. A lot of people get hampered by deciding on their own what the marketplace will support, what it will, what it won't, what people will buy, what they won't, what's cool, what's not. You have to test. One of the first rules in business and marketing is to acknowledge you don't know. You don't know. You test headlines. You test, for headlines.
It went fuzzy.
For email.
Can you hear me?
You test names for video.
Hello?
You test. You got to test out there.
Yeah, it's not.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, can you hear me?
So, if people are in court right now, percent, but there's no reason in my mind.
Are you able to hear me?
Joe, I haven't heard you in a minute, man. I think the call froze.
Yeah, it did. I didn't hear almost any of your answer.
Okay, can you hear me now? Can you see me now?
Yeah, it's a little fuzz, but...
Okay, would you want to end the call, start a new one, and then get my answer there in a new call with a new connection, or should we just try it here?
It's perfect now.
Okay, I got you also. So you want me to start that again?
Sure, yeah. I mean, we're not... It could be totally off the record, too. Just literally, it could It could be on the record if you want to, but
I'm happy for it to be on the record because the answer I think will help a lot of people. Okay.
great.
There's no reason why you can't start a Kickstarter campaign right now, in my view, and let the marketplace decide if it's valuable, if it's not, if it's worthwhile, if it's not, if it's worth supporting or not. In marketing and in business, you don't really know what's going to work until you get out there and test. I've had offers fall flat that surprise me. I've had offers rock and roll that surprise me. You won't know till you test, and you have to let the marketplace decide. So if you decide you want to do a Kickstarter campaign now, I think you should go for it. If people like you, if the perks and rewards that you make available seem valuable to them, you will get money. But you won't know what works until you put it out there. So many people are afraid of trying, of experimenting, of putting themselves out there. And until you try it, you won't know. But I believe that the marketplace and the public will tell you the truth. This is related because sometimes people ask me, like, listen, I'm trying to start a business and I've started and nobody's buying what I'm selling. Nobody wants my service. So you have to understand why. Maybe you're just not really good at what you want. Maybe you're average or below average and nobody wants to open up their wallet for average or below average. Maybe your marketing is no good. Maybe your pitch is no good. Maybe your landing page is no good. You have to know what the problem is, but it's important to let the marketplace tell you the truth and receive that feedback and tweak based upon it. But based on what you want to do, I can't see any reason why you can't try to raise money right now for what you're doing. You just would have to decide in a Kickstarter world. You just have to decide what are the perks and rewards that you want to package around it to incentivize people to send a few dollars your way. But you're a very likable guy. I can't see why, at least your core friends and family would be interested in, especially if you spice it up for them.
Definitely. Thanks for doing this. I'm really trying to put together the best of our world, and it's amazing. It was such an amazing blessing to be able to get you on with no proof or anything. So thanks for believing in me.
Oh, absolutely. Of course I believe in you. Listen, my time, I protect it zealously and jealously, but I could see you're a winner. You're a terrific guy. I know your heart's in the right place. You're l'shem shamayim. You mean well and you want to help people. Look, at the end of the day, I want to help people. I want to help people. I want to help them improve their lives, grow, be their very best. I think that a life in which you're completely self-focused and don't add and multiply into the lives of people around you, from a Jewish perspective, is not really such a high-level life. It's not really a life worth living. One thing I've done is I've become very proficient at recycling my own pains and disappointments and hard-earned lessons into areas to help other people. I first got into shidduchim, helping people get married, when I was a single, and I thought I was a pretty great guy, and I was astonished how little help I was receiving to meet my future wife. I was astonished by it. So I said, you know what? One day I'm going to go help other people. When I didn't understand what Judaism was, and it blew my mind, I said, one day I'm going to really learn this up well, and I'm going to go show other people how amazing their Jewish heritage could be. The same with learning how to sell. I didn't know how to sell. I didn't know anything about sales. I didn't know anything about marketing. And it was a problem because I was super knowledgeable and super talented, and I didn't know how to present it to the public. So then I said, one day I'm going to figure this out, and I'm going to go help other people do the same. So I think that's important. I see your heart's in the right place. You have to take all of the scars, that you have from life and all of the bumps and bruises, and we have to figure out as Jews and human beings, like, how do you recycle them into something positive? I'll leave you with this because I haven't given you too many straight Torah thoughts in our time together, but everything I have said is in conformance with Torah. But I'll give you a specific one that's obviously a Torah thought. In halacha, in Jewish law, an esrog, that bumpy lemon that we would use on Sukkot, it's considered to be the most beautiful one, a hiddur, the most beautified one, if the esrog is bumpy, if it's a bumpy one. The more bumpy, the more it has those marks and it's a bumpy esrog, the more beautiful it is from the Torah perspective versus a smooth one. And some of the commentaries explain that an esrog that is bumpy represents a Torah scholar and a person also similarly who's simultaneously full of good deeds, who has a lot of scars from his wars through life to grow, to climb against his Yetzer Hara's evil inclination, but he's emerged victorious. It's the bumpy esrog that is the beautiful one from our perspective, not the smooth one, but the one who has the scars of a life of striving and trying to climb, you know? So we all have those, we all are a bumpy esrog in one way or another. The question becomes, how do we recycle that into a way to help the next person?
Definitely. So where can people follow up and follow you, contact you, and what are you available for?
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you for that opportunity. So on pretty much all the social media platforms, I could be found under the name Rabbi Bregman, RABBIBREGMAN. So YouTube, Rabbi Bregman, Facebook.com/Rabbi Bregman. That's my new public figure page that's a couple months old. On Snapchat, you got it, pattern here, Rabbi Bregman. Instagram, Rabbi Bregman. That's the easiest way for a person to find me. If a person would Google that, I come up, a big smiley rabbi all the time, right? So you can find me there very easily, same on all the different platforms. My main website is bregmansuccess.com, BREGMAN success, one word, bregmansuccess.com. That's where a person can sort of engage with me. And a lot of my content, aside from the other platforms. I work with people one-on-one towards attaining their goals, whether it's a person who's 58 years old and getting divorced and trying to get their life together, whether it's you have a product, a service, you're a professional, but you don't know how to sell. I could teach you how to sell, you or your company, whether it's your marketing, your branding, your social media, getting attention for what you want to do, whether it's in your personal life, your social confidence, anything else. I am available to work with people one-on-one, whether for 1 month, 3 months, 6 months. There's different packages. I do that as well. You know, it's a great privilege to help people. The first way to get to know me is from my content online. And if a person would like all of that directed towards their problems directly in a one-on-one relationship with me, that's a fast way to do it. What oftentimes happens, Matisyo, with me and a lot of other people that are sort of like known or internet famous, is that we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of videos. Each one is a gem and a diamond and a puzzle piece to getting you the life and the outcomes you want. What happens is the question becomes, how do you organize them and in a way that makes them work? It's like if you walk into a gym and there's like 1,000 pieces of equipment and balls and rubber bands and things. It's like each one is going to contribute to your health. The question is like, can I get somebody to tell me, stand here and tell me, I want to look like that guy, tell me what to do and in what order, and give me homework. So that's what I do with people one-on-one.
And I'll tell everybody, working with a coach, the most common thing I hear is the money excuse. And we live one time. And the Mishnah says you need to make for yourself a mentor. And that means that you need to pay for one, and somebody that's quality and somebody that's going to take you where you need to go. People really need to start learning how to measure that. So if you're paying $2,500, but you just made it so that you're a person now that's going to make $5,000 more a month, excuse me, compare the two, and it's one of the best investments you can make.
I completely agree. I completely, thoroughly, totally, wholly agree with you. A lot of people are scared to invest money in themselves, and it's pretty shocking to me. If you would itemize with them what they spend money on, it's pretty shocking. But any investment I've made in myself, it always paid off, whether in my health, whether in relationships, whether in my knowledge. I've continued to upgrade my fund of knowledge massively, because even going to a top law school, even being a rabbi, everything else, I saw that I wasn't enough yet to become who I needed to be to accomplish what I wanted to accomplish. So yeah, investments in yourself pay off if they're done with due diligence and wisely.
Rabbi, have a great day. It was nice to
meet you. I will. The pleasure was, like I told you at the top, more mine than yours. You're amazing. Thanks for your time. Good luck.
You too.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you.